Well, due to lockdowns and things, it's been quite a while since my last video. But today we're heading further up the coast and further back in time than we've ever been before. If you thought the Second World War or Sir Francis Drake was history, then you ain't seen nothing yet. Because today we're going to Pakefield. Like the rest of our coast, Pakefield is subject to quite a lot of coastal erosion. But in 2005 that led to an amazing discovery of some flint hand tools, which pushed the history of humankind in the British Isles back by some 200,000 years. Till the 1990s, it was believed that humans didn't really come to the British Isles until after the last Anglian ice advance 450,000 years ago. And then some fossilised bones that were found in Boxgrove in West Sussex in 1993 made us realise that early humans, most likely Homo heidelbergensis, had been here before the ice sheet rolled over Britain. Alongside the bones were pear-shaped flint tools, which Boxgrove man or Boxgrove woman would have used to butcher the prey that they caught. Also at the site were remains of rhinoceros, bear and voles, which may have all formed part of the diet of our early ancestors. Voles are actually really important to archaeologists and paleontologists who actually date things using a thing called the vole clock. By finding out what species of vole were around at the same time as your other artifacts, you can actually get an idea as to what part of history you're talking about. If you find traces of the now extinct species of mole called Mammomis savini, then you know that you must be talking about things that happened before the Anglian Ice Age. If on the other hand you find remains of Arbicola terrestris kantiana, another kind of vole, then you know that you're talking about the warm period that came after the Ice Age, known as the Hoxnean Interglacial. During the time where the flint tools from Pakefield were made, Suffolk and the rest of the eastern counties were still joined to the continent by a land bridge, which meant that animals and early humans could make their way across what was known as Doggerland between here and continental Europe. At that time, the climate here was rather like the Mediterranean today, and Pakefield sat on the southern banks of the estuary of the River Bytham. Crucially for us, it was also home to Mammomis savini, the vole that we spoke about. Meaning that thanks to the vole clock, we know that the flint tools must have been deposited here before the Anglian Ice Age. Even more importantly, there was another vole, Mammosis pusillus, and that died out about 650,000 years ago. So it means that the flint tools must have been older than that. In fact, the tools have now been dated to about 700,000 years ago. New discoveries constantly push the story of mankind in Britain even further back. It's clear now that there have been several waves of immigration, early humans colonising the country in the warmer periods and retreating south during the ice ages that covered most of Britain in ice and snow and made it uninhabitable. No one lived here at all for huge swathes of time. Between 180,000 and 70,000 years ago, for instance, there may well have been nobody here at all, not one person for over 100,000 years. Evidence of habitation, again in the form of flint tools, has now been found further up the coast at Haysborough in Norfolk, which could tell tales of our ancestors living in this area up to 950,000 years ago. According to the good people at Ordnance Survey, the coastline of Britain is 11,073 miles long, and absolutely nowhere has a better name than this: Crazy Mary's Hole. Mary was said to have fallen in love with a sailor, and when he set off to sea, she came here every evening to look for his ship, but it never returned. One day her body was found on the shoreline, and they say her ghost can still be seen at night, looking out to sea. Certainly, some of the soldiers stationed along the coast here during the last war were not happy to be put on lone patrol here at night. Just to the south of what is today the Pakefield Caravan Park, there was a coastal battery with huge 6-inch guns to defend the nation from invasion. Just to the south of this, in the 1930s, a holiday camp was built, replacing tented accommodation that had been in place for well over a decade. Suffolk having got in on the glamping theme quite early. At the start of the Second World War, the camp housed children from the Kindertransport, children that had fled Nazi Germany and had no foster homes to go to. At the same time, the Royal Observer Corps set up a post in the lighthouse, which had been there since 1832. Pakefield originally had two churches, St Margaret's and All Saints. Obviously St Margaret was too busy to look after it because that church disappeared into the sea in the 14th century. So everybody moved to All Saints, where there were more saints free to keep an eye open. The parishioners of All Saints didn't welcome the parishioners from St Margaret's. Instead they built another altar and a dividing wall so they didn't have to sit together. Over the centuries though, hundreds of acres have been lost to the sea, along with dozens, if not hundreds of houses. And the Cliff Hotel, which should have known better really with a name like that. Even Victorian maps show streets and houses to the east of the church, which now stands on the cliffs. And as we head south we go past Kessingland, which has also been inhabited for a very, very long time. Certainly Paleolithic and Neolithic finds in the area. In the medieval era, Kessingland was said to be the richest village in England.